100 Fist Rush! You're already dead.
I think that intro speaks for itself. Fist of the North Star, or Hokuto no Ken as it's known in Japan, is a series that's not as well known in the United States. However, that hasn't stopped companies from releasing many different game adaptations based on the franchise, and this latest attempt from Sega proves to be one of the best entries yet. Fist of the North Star's main story revolves around ridiculously massive martial artists in a 1980s post-apocalyptic setting. Kenshiro, the game's main protagonist, practices a martial art known as Hokuto Shinken. As he was chosen to be the martial art's only successor, this usually gets him into a lot of trouble with various types of bandits, thieves, and other martial artists. The story of Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise is no different, in that it's a basic story revolving around saving Yuria, Ken's significant other. In looking for Yuria, Ken eventually makes his way to the city of Eden, one of the few last large cities left in human civilization. The story aspects are one of the weaker parts of the experience to be sure, with its basic save the girl premise, as it's a sort of retelling of events rather than a mainline canon entry. However, Lost Paradise does have many strengths, which mainly lie in the combat and the sheer variety of things to do in the game. The similarities between the Yakuza series and Lost Paradise are no coincidence, as they both utilize the same engine from the older Yakuza games such as Yakuza 0, and have the same developers. And even though it uses the older engine rather than the new engine used in Yakuza 6, the fantastic smooth combat, the art style with the crisp, clean characters, and their over-the-top look make for a unique and rewarding experience nonetheless. Lost Paradise's combat represents Fist of the North Star very well. Many different attack strings as well as over-the-top finishing moves are at its core. Kenshiro has the ability to perform regular combos on enemies until an icon fills up next to their life bar. After this, he can perform various moves on them to finish them off, which allow you to use a move such as a channeling point strike to instantly kill them, or let you use a powerful Hokuto Shinken technique accompanied by an over-the-top animation. Something called a burst mode can also be used, in which Ken turns red, which, similar to Yakuza's Heat mode, boosts his attack and defense and gives him access to more moves for a limited time. A lot of these moves are so ridiculously over the top that you can't help but laugh in glee as you destroy enemies and they explode into fountains of blood and gore. The first time you see Ken deploy his ultimate pimp slap, you'll see exactly what I mean.
Back to the channeling point.
Repetition can set in after seeing every attack multiple times, but the extremely accurate representation of Fist of the North Star's world and combat is easily one of its best traits. The game adds a few RPG elements as well, using a sphere system that allows you to pick what order you unlock new moves for Kenshiro as well as power him up. The catch is that certain moves and power-ups are unlocked through the use of star orbs, which you earn through experience, and other specially colored ones such as mind, skill, and body orbs that you unlock through story progression or certain other methods in the game. In this way, you have to be careful about how you want to power up Kenshiro, because you can make it through the entire game and still not earn enough experience points to unlock everything. If you are a completionist that wants to unlock every move in the game before completing it, however, the game gives you plenty of opportunities to do so due to its huge amount of side content. In probably the biggest similarity to the Yakuza series, tons of side activities abound. And in addition to completing dozens and dozens of sub-stories involving major and minor characters throughout the game, you'll do everything from playing a batting practice style game in which you have to hit thugs as far as you can, find material to build talismans which assist Kenshiro in battle in various ways, make drinks for customers at a bar, participate in bounty hunting missions, train with your brother Toki to learn new martial arts moves, play a rhythm game in which you're trying to cure as many people as possible at a clinic, and much, much more. With such an overwhelming amount of things to do, it's easy to get sidetracked. And while some activities aren't as fun as others, and many of them are repeats or different versions of the minigames from the Yakuza series, they all add much needed variety to the gameplay and offer helpful rewards and experience points. Also, like Yakuza, it's hilarious to watch a serious character like Kenshiro get involved in such ridiculous situations. A lot of this is because he approaches every activity with the same fury and determination as his martial arts, which is especially hilarious when he's bartending.
Break, 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 break! Suplex drop.
Something that's always been distinctly Japanese in games of this vein from Sega are without a doubt one of the most involved minigames, where you once again run a Hostess club. This minigame comes with its own set of sub-stories as well as tons of rewards and experience if you complete all the missions. Each Hostess comes with her own set of skills and traits, and the objectives vary slightly with each mission, but they mostly involve meeting certain sales goals while making as few customers angry as possible. This minigame can be strangely addicting despite its somewhat weird nature, as you get more and more involved with managing the club and learning about the girls and their stories. This minigame is one of the best ways to make money in the entire game besides bounty missions, and you'll need it because shortly after arriving into the city, Kenshiro breaks a piece of art owned by an old woman, and you then have to spend the rest of the game trying to pay off a 100 million debt that you owe to her. Good luck. Besides all this, one of the biggest additions that the game adds is driving around an open world setting. Various small villages are scattered throughout the landscape, as well as treasures you can find, and bandits that are ready to attack you at a moment's notice. Other than that, there's not really much to do or see in this open world. The buggy has the option to turbo boost through the landscape, and there's also a fuel gauge which you'll need to refill every once in a while. Things like the fuel gauge seem to be there to provide some sense of resource management, but it fails to do so in that you never really have to worry about running out of fuel even with the original fuel tank equipped. You also do have the option to upgrade your buggy in other ways, such as improving the engine, tires, or brakes, and you can then use these upgrades to compete in races. But due to its imprecise handling, the races never really feel that fun. However, this is luckily one of the game's few downfalls. Lost Paradise's soundtrack consists mainly of standard guitar riffs, percussive beats, bass, dance music, and a little Japanese flair thrown in for good measure. And while nothing here in particular stands out, the music is appropriately high tension to melancholy or fun when it needs to be, and it does a good job of fitting the mood of the activity that you're performing at the time. English and Japanese voice tracks are also available, with the well-known voice of Kazuma Kiryu, Takaya Kuroda, also voicing Kenshiro. Purists and fans of Yakuza may want to switch to the Japanese voice option. The main characters in the English voice cast do a decent job, especially Kenshiro. Unfortunately, not all lines of dialogue in the game are voice acted, with more minor characters just making noises and grunting while speaking to Kenshiro. But I appreciated how they did have an English voice option as well, as it's nice to hear Kenshiro ridiculously call out his moves in English as well as Japanese.
Exploding five-finger strike!
Aside from all the fighting and side activities, Eden is a large city that you're able to explore. This is the main hub where you're able to help other citizens, get into fights with thugs on the streets, buy items and armor to replenish Kenshiro's health or power him up, and more. Besides the cast of Fist of the North Star, the city is a character in itself. And while I don't want to spoil it for you here, the look of the city will change from day to night as well as over the course of the game, with many of its secrets revealed as the story goes on. You could complain about its lack of vibrance as compared to other cities in the Yakuza series, but this being a post-apocalyptic setting, it does fit the series well. Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise was a game that nobody was really looking for, but that the beat-em-up and action genre need. The similarities to the Yakuza franchise can't be denied. And while I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing considering how great the Yakuza series is, this game still has enough of its own personality to be unique. The story isn't as compelling as it could be, and it does use an older graphics engine. But the extremely fun combat, along with tons of side quests and activities, add depth to the experience. The game does suffer from some overly repetitious scenarios that keep it from greatness, but once you start playing, it's hard to put down. If Sega can tweak and refine the formula for the possible next entry in the franchise, they could have a truly amazing experience on their hands. Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise isn't perfect, but it is fun, and ultimately, that's what gaming's all about.